Good morning, viewers. Sage here live from Kalkine Studios in Sydney, and you are watching the opening bell. Let us cast an eye over how the Australian market charter is panning out today. Well, the Australian share market opened lower on the backdrop of a weaker Wall Street closing. The ASX 200 has erased all the gains of the week amid the soft global cues. And also the country's most populous state, New South Wales, reported its highest daily rise in local coronavirus cases this year. It is fueling concerns regarding an extension to restrictions. And looking at the market open trades, the tech sector was the leading drag, taking cues from the weak Nasdaq trade. Afterpay, Zip and Nearmap were the top losers on the board. And besides, CSR, Kogan.com and Chalice Mining also edged lower. Meanwhile, Viva Energy advanced on forecasting strong first half results. And besides other energy players, Ampol and Oil Search traded in the red zone. The gold players Evolution Mining and Gold Road Resources were the leading gainers amid the gold price uptick. And next, before we jump to the ASX charter for today in detail, let us look at the Friday's US market performance. Well, US equity markets traded lower on Thursday, reverting from record closing in a broad sell-off driven by uncertainties surrounding the pace of the US economic recovery. And also the bond prices firmed further towards a new 52-week high as investors trimmed risk and fled to safety. And although markets had rebounded from their extreme lows made early in the trading session, they still closed meaningfully lower. Worries about Beijing's crackdown on foreign-listed Chinese firms also put a halt on the equities rally. At the closing, the Dow Jones was down 0.75%, while the broader S&P 500 index lost 0.86%. The tech-focused Nasdaq composite fell 0.72%. And meanwhile, new data on Thursday on the filing of new unemployment claims by Americans depicted that the jobs market recovery from the coronavirus pandemic continues to be choppy. Moving to the US Treasury Yield scenario, the US government bond yields continued to tumble, with 10-year Treasury yields declining to their lowest levels in nearly 5 months as investors' worries persisted that the highest pace of the economic recovery may now be over. The yield on 10-year Treasury notes fell 3.5 basis points to 1.286%. And on Thursday, the US Treasury yield curve, measuring the gap between yields on 2 and 10-year Treasury notes, was at 108.9 basis points after flattening to as small as 104.2, the most narrowed curve since 12th February 2021. And next, moving on to the currency space, the US dollar fell on Thursday, retracing from a 3-month high, and the dollar index was down 0.3% at 92.5. And meanwhile, the Australian and New Zealand dollars traded lower as a bout of global risk aversion lowered bond yields and triggered a sell-off in global equities. Also, a further lockdown in Sydney challenged the domestic economic outlook. Then in the cryptocurrency market, Bitcoin fell to the lowest level since 28th June 2021 and is currently trading 3.14% down. Other popular cryptos such as Ether and Dogecoin are trading lower. And now it's time for a short break, but please stay tuned as I'll be back with the trending updates for the Australian share market.
This is Andy Liu broadcasting from Kalkine Media Studio in Australia, and I'll be hosting the new Kalkine Wellness Show. The half-hour show will cover topics from how wellness as a concept has become even more significant during COVID, to how becoming vegan may improve your health, and much more. We are excited to showcase our live streaming show to our audience of millions overseas and in Australia. Tune in to Kalkine TV and join me.
Welcome back, Sage here, your host live from Kalkine Studio in Sydney, and you are watching the Opening Bell Show. Well, now that we have taken a glimpse at the US market performance, let us look at the major newsmakers in the Australian share market today, beginning with the Rural Funds Group dipped on completing institutional offer. Rural Funds Management has completed the institutional component of its fully underwritten 148.4 accelerated pro-rata non-renounceable entitlement offer to raise nearly 100 million Australian dollars. Next up, Viva Energy Group skyrocketed on forecasting strong first half. The company has forecasted the first half underlying EBITDA between 390 to 410 million Australian dollars for the financial year 2021, a 34% rise from the corresponding period of last year. And according to the company, while retail fuel sales continued to be impacted by periodic lockdowns and aviation by ongoing border closures, overall growth across all retail and consumer or commercial channels has been very encouraging. And moving to the next stock making the headlines, Audinate jumped on, flagging strong fourth quarter. The company said that it expects revenue of $25 million in the financial year 2021, a rise of 23% from the previous corresponding year. It said loosening COVID-19 restrictions helped the June quarter revenue rocket 74% on the prior corresponding quarter. And the next newsmaker under the radar is Parenti Global, inked a $280 million contract. The company announced that its subsidiary Barminco has signed a $280 million 4-year contract with Panoramic Resources for development and production works at the Savannah Nickel project in Western Australia. And let us now look at the last newsmaker in our list today. Betting firm Tabcorp is set for the worst week in 16 after Lotteries and Keno spin off. Tabcorp on Monday said it would spin off its Lotteries and Keno business into a listed entity, drawing an end to a company-wide review it undertook earlier this year. And credit rating agency S&P Global Ratings said it believed demerger of Tabcorp's Lotteries arm would materially reduce its earnings quality, scale and diversification. And now it's time for a short break, but please stay tuned. I'll be back with the trending updates for the Australian share market.
Tune in to stay updated while on the move.
We will tell you where the crypto craze has reached,
Where the property market is headed next.
what the world is doing to become more environmentally friendly.
Apart from tracking the daily market charter.
Be on top of the latest news and announcements
With Kalkine TV.
Welcome back. This is Sage, your host, live from the Kalkine studio here in Sydney, and you are watching the Opening Bell Show. Let us now glance through the ASX sectoral charter. And the Australian technology shares traded lower during the early trades, giving the ongoing Chinese tech rout and a weaker closing of the Nasdaq 100. Nuix, Afterpay, Zip and Nearmap traded lower, and besides, Xero and WiseTech also dipped. And meanwhile, the Australian energy majors such as Beach Energy, Woodside Petroleum and Oil Search traded in the green zone amid further oil price upticks. The crude oil prices ticked up on Thursday, rebounding from losses in the early sessions after the US government data revealed that crude and gasoline inventories fell more than expected. And the Brent crude oil futures rose 0.9%, while the US West Texas Intermediate futures were up 1%. And let us now move on to the miners space. The heavyweight miners, BHP Group, Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals traded lower. On Thursday, the Chinese coke and coking coal futures fell to a 1-month low, and iron ore prices fell as much as 3.6%. And the steel production cuts at some mills raised concerns over sustained demand for the steelmaking ingredients. And the benchmark iron ore futures on the Dalian Bourse closed the session 2.9% lower. Meanwhile, copper prices slid after the US Fed indicated its plans to tighten the monetary policy sooner than expected. And on that note, the ASX listed copper players Oz Minerals and Sandfire Resources traded in the red territory during the early trading hours today. Then in the yellow metal space, Ramelius and Gold Road dipped amid the gold price downtick, and the gold prices eased on Thursday as Wall Street recouped some losses from the lows, and the US Treasury yields edged lower. However, a weaker US dollar and concerns over a US jobs market recovery kept the yellow metal near a 3-week peak. And thanks for joining us on that report. That's all for now. And we will be bringing you more stock updates in our upcoming shows during the day. So please stay tuned with Kalkine TV across the economy, market and sectors. Sage signing off.